The recent Intel Core Ultra and Ryzen 9000 CPU launches have been anything from underwhelming to a complete unmitigated disaster for AMD and Intel, two flagship CPU lineups that we hoped would provide more performance than the previous generation chips that have failed to deliver on multiple counts. But with the CPU market in complete freefall, what should you actually buy, and where do the latest AMD and Intel CPU launches actually leave us? Well, in this video, I'll be talking about what went wrong for AMD and Intel, but more importantly, how you can make sure that doesn't affect your next system, and what you should actually buy in what is a really confusing market. Let's do this. Corsair's latest mid-tower PC case is here. The Corsair 3500X has arrived, boasting support for most large graphics cards, 360mm AIOs, and even eATX motherboards. Reverse cable motherboard compatibility also allows you to use the latest designs in your build, while panoramic glass at the front and side shows off your system in all of its glory. Available in black, white, RGB, and IQ-Link derivatives. You can check it out at the first links in the description below. Now let's start with Core Ultra, because that's going to be the most fresh in people's mind. Now, Core Ultra as a lineup of CPUs isn't actually fundamentally flawed. It's not like the CPUs have big issues with excessive voltages, huge heat output, or plain instability. They're just no better really than the 14th gen chips that Intel hopes they'll replace. Now, this is a brand new architecture, which is why we're all hoping for so much more. And while Intel have fixed the power consumption and heat output woes that really hurt 14th and to an extent 13th gen, that's about it. Now, as far as benchmarks go, you'll have seen in our recent launch build where we covered all of these CPUs in detail, check it out in the cards now, that performance in some instances is actually worse, let alone on par, with the previous gen 14th and even 13th gen CPUs. And the issue here that Intel has got has compounded over multiple lineups. You see, 14th gen wasn't really that much quicker than 13th gen in a number of the tests that we and many other people have carried out. That meant that the jump we were hoping from for 15th gen almost needed to compensate for what 14th gen should have been. Now, it's great that Intel have got the architecture more right this time around, heat and power being the main concerns, but again, as I said in the summary of our Core Ultra launch build, a lot of gamers frankly don't care about power consumption, and as long as it's not overheating with a decent cooler, it's not really a concern for the vast majority of people. Now, Ryzen 9000 was slightly different in that it wasn't a brand new architecture, and that instead it built on what was an incredibly successful lineup of CPUs from AMD on Ryzen 7000. Now, I'd go as far to say that Intel's Core Ultra launch actually made AMD Ryzen 9000 look a little bit better, and I think if AMD had held off and launched the CPUs later, they might have had a more positive reception. Now, the big problem for me with Ryzen 9000 isn't actually performance. Now, yes, the performance uplift isn't very big from 9000 to 7000, but there is at least some performance uplift, unlike with Intel. My problem with Ryzen 9000 is actually the price. The issue that AMD always have when they release a new lineup of CPUs is that they're too expensive, and they do this with GPUs too. AMD, if you're watching, why? This is the bit I don't get with AMD, right? You look at every single GPU in the mid-range of the market, the 7700, the 7800, and the 7900 XTs and GRE, all three right now represent exceptional value for money. Our cost per frame analysis of GPU testing in a range of titles puts these cards squarely at the bottom of the graph, aka the cheapest on a per frame basis. Now, that sounds great, but when those cards launched, they were just far more expensive than they were now, which made the cost per frame analysis when they were originally reviewed look pretty terrible. And this is what AMD did with Ryzen 7000 too. They launched the Ryzen 5 7600X for best part of $300. It was terrible value for money and nobody bought one. What can you buy one for now? About $229. And we're already seeing this happen with the Ryzen 5 9600X, a chip that is a bit better than the 7600X, but not by a great deal. What did that launch for? About $300. What can you buy one for now? $250. How long's it been since they launched? What, 4 weeks, if that? And this is the bit with AMD that perplexes me. I just don't quite understand why AMD fall into this trap of overpricing CPUs in the first place for really very little gain, especially when the resulting reviews then say, well, it's okay, but it's too expensive. And what's really quite a shame about both the recent AMD and Intel launches is that some of the architectural issues we've seen over the last few years have been fixed. Let's face it, Ryzen now is in a much better place than it was 18 months ago. When Ryzen 7000 first launched, the motherboards cost a fortune. The DDR5 memory was expensive and the latencies were slow and speeds weren't great either. Now DDR5 is cheaper than ever, motherboards are cheaper than ever, and the platform costs associated with these CPUs are, you guessed it, cheaper than ever. So that's Ryzen 9000 and that's Intel's Core Ultra. But what should you actually buy? Now, to answer this question, we've taken all of our benchmarking data in a range of synthetic and gaming scenarios and combined it with the pricing right now of these chips. We've used Newegg in the States as a representative idea, and this pricing actually paints a very different picture to what we would have seen just a few weeks ago when Ryzen 9000 first launched. Now, as far as the cheapest viable gaming CPU that I would recommend for most builds, I would discount Intel's Core i3-14100F on the basis it's only got 4 cores. 6 cores really is what you want for gaming right now, and actually look at the Ryzen 7000 lineup. The Ryzen 7500F is sort of an AliExpress CPU that's going to provide good performance at an affordable $150 price point. But if you want a mainstream CPU you can buy on Amazon or Newegg, Intel's Core i5-14400F actually comes in at a surprising $176. Now this is around $20 cheaper than AMD's Ryzen 5 7600 Non-X, and arguably you'll be able to get the motherboards and stuff a little bit cheaper, as those boards are now technically end of life and obviously don't support the new Core Ultra CPUs. The advantage to spending another $20 on the 7600 Non-X, even if it doesn't really represent value for money compared to the i5 chip, is that of course you can use a modern B650, potentially B850 if that lands in the new year, chipset motherboard, and actually get better upgrade paths moving into 2025 and beyond. But where things get really interesting is if you step up and look at the Ryzen 5 7600X. Why would you buy the new Ryzen 5 9600X for $300 when you can buy the 7600X for around $229? But the 9600X has already fallen in price, which illustrates the point I made earlier. And that is that, well, Ryzen doesn't hold its price very well at all. And what could bring Ryzen 9000 CPUs back into contention is the price drops we've all come to expect from AMD. Now you could argue this is also just AMD being punished for overpricing CPUs in the first place and responding to weak sales demand, which is probably true, but it actually underpins the fact further that you can't really trust the initial Ryzen 9000 reviews that were based on the price that AMD gave out, because they will not stick to it. And as we start to move up the lineup a little bit more, you'll see AMD win out again and again for gaming. You see the 14600K from Intel provides good performance, but is nearly as expensive as AMD's Ryzen 7 CPUs, which are arguably a better buy. Now, we haven't seen the same aggressive price drops on Ryzen 7 9000 that we have on Ryzen 5 9000, but if that pattern is anything to go by, we should expect that to broadly follow in the not too distant future. The lack of good gaming CPUs on the higher end of the spectrum also leads to problems with popular chips like this, the 7800 X3D, and now seems like a good point to talk about the X3D lineup of CPUs. Now, there's no doubt about the fact that this is pretty much the fastest gaming CPU on the market. I mean, look at some of our testing, which just shows how good this chip is, especially for those lower resolutions where you're more CPU bound. Now, the 7800 X3D at times has gone to well under $400. I've seen this float around the $350, $360 mark previously, but now that is not the case. Not only over in the US, but over here in the UK too, you've got a hard time finding this for anywhere near that price point. In fact, our current data suggests that the 7800 X3D actually comes in at a staggering $470 US. That pricing exists because there are no other good gaming CPUs out there right now. I mean, heck, the Core Ultra 9 is okay when it comes to multi-threaded performance, but it's not going to compete against the 7800 X3D, and certainly not at their respective MSRP price points. Now, of course, we are expecting AMD to bring out newer X3D CPUs pretty imminently, at least that's what the rumor mill seems to suggest, and that should help ease the demand and supply issues on the 7800 X3D and its other X3D bigger brothers. Now, what that means really is that for gaming, there's a couple of easy recommendations. On the lower end, you'll want to go for the Ryzen 5 7600, either the X or the non-X version, while keeping your eye on the 9600X to see if this falls further. If this gets to around the 230, 235 mark, I think it could be a very compelling CPU. If you want a little bit more firepower, yes, you may want to consider a Ryzen 7 chip, but you'd be better with a 7800 X3D, or waiting for the new X3D chips and this to fall in price. I'm not suggesting that this chip at around $500 is a particularly good buy. So that's gaming, but what about about the high-end multi-core side. Is this where Intel regain a little bit of composure? And the answer is actually yes, because if you take the pricing data we've gathered on all these CPUs right now and couple it up with the Cinebench multi-core scores of all of these chips, you actually see that Intel has the lowest cost per frame, and not just on one or two CPUs, but pretty much the whole range. While our Cinebench data and tests in applications like DaVinci Resolve don't show the Core Ultra 9 to be beating out the 14900K in every scenario, it does still beat out all but one of AMD's options on the higher end for multi-core workloads. Intel, they're not completely dead and buried. Yes, it's disappointing to see no more performance over 13th and 14th gen, and I'm not saying that you should buy the Core Ultra 9 necessarily, but don't discount Intel completely. I feel like there's a little bit of a sentiment right now that Intel forgot how to make CPUs with 13th and 14th gen and then completely dropped the ball with Core Ultra. But the fact of the matter is, when it comes to high multi-core workloads, AMD do suffer just a little bit. In fact, the 7800X 3D at its current pricing, but perhaps more fairly, the 7950X 3D, which is price gouged to a much lower extent, actually has the highest cost per 1000 points in Cinebench R23. And chips like the Ryzen 9 7900X aren't much better. In fact, Intel's Core Ultra 5, which is just not that great, actually beats out pretty much all of AMD's CPUs on a cost per performance basis in multi-core tasks like Cinebench. Ultimately, the CPU market is a little bit disjointed right now, but good value deals on motherboards, especially whether you go last gen or even AMD, whose current gen platform costs have fallen sharply, does at least give some glimmer of hope. Hopefully AMD can save the market with X3D, as Intel and AMD themselves have left the door open with Ryzen 9000 and Intel Core Ultra.